The Cleveland Browns put Joe Haden on the trading block. Yes, the former Pro Bowl cornerback is now being aggressively shopped. Now, Joe Haden used to be a top five cornerback in 2014, but ever since then, he's definitely been exploited, and obviously, he's been struggling covering the deep ball. Now, when it comes to Joe Haden is a very quick cornerback that is not very fast, but he has good hands, so he's good for getting interceptions and whatnot. And when it comes to this, I think there's four teams that could use him handily. I think the Dolphins, the Texans, the Raiders, and the Packers. And the reason why I put those teams down are simply because they're the teams that really could use them, obviously, and they also have the cap space to afford them. Now, let's start off with the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Miami Dolphins were just rumored about shopping Jarvis Landry, and the only reason why I would understand that is he has 1 year left in his contract, and you would get a really good return out of him. But other than that, I really, really love watching Jarvis Landry. But back to Joe Haden. I think Joe Haden would be a nice compliment to Byron Maxwell. Now, Byron Maxwell definitely fell off of the face of the earth when he went to the Philadelphia Eagles. But since he rejoined the Miami Dolphins, he looks like a decent number one cornerback. And if you move Joe Haden to the number two spot, that could be very good. And he's very quick, which would be really nice to cover those underneath wide receivers in New England, because the Dolphins still made the playoffs without splitting their meats with the New England Patriots, because usually the teams that get to the playoffs usually in that AFC East usually split with the Patriots. And when it comes to Joe Haden I think would be good for covering those underneath guys, similar to Amendola. Maybe Brandon Cooks, they might do a lot more underneath stuff since Edelman's out. And he also has very good hands, so I think that comes with a big perk right there. Now, another team that comes into my mind is definitely the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans lost AJ Boye, or AJ Boy, whatever the heck his name is, and he's one of these nickel corners who's quick and has good hands, similar to Joe Haden. I think Joe Haden would really, really work well out if you put him in the nickel or he's working out as a slot receiver. And I think that if you put him there, I think it would be really good. And definitely when you look at the Texans, their secondary is definitely concerned. Jonathan Joseph got mossed by Kevin Benjamin, whatever his freaking name is. But he got mossed by him either way. And I think they could really use some secondary help. They went after and got Marcus Gilchrist from the New York Jets after the New York Jets released him. So I definitely think that would be something interesting and definitely something to consider. And obviously, I think Joe Haden would be a good fit there. Another team is the Packers. Now, the Packers cornerbacks just freaking suck. But the one thing for sure about the Packers is if they're going to play defense, they might as well get a has-been and a cornerback that maybe has some good hands. Maybe they get some return yards right there in that scheme of defense. I think that could be pretty cool. Also, when you look at this, I think to myself that the Packers could really use anyone in that secondary, and Joe Haden really works out there. And I just think that if you have a cornerback there, you're talking about if you just have one that's decent, maybe you can get something there. And also Joe Haden, he ain't old. He's 27 years old. So you got someone there who can play. He's a little bit pricey. He's very pricey for how he plays. But over that, he's 27 years old, and he was a former Pro Bowl cornerback. So he's definitely a guy worth considering. Next guy I have are the Raiders. Yes, the Raiders could use a cornerback. Obviously, they got some inexperienced corners right now on the back end, and it looks as if their veteran Sean Smith might go to jail, and he might never, ever return to football. Yes, click in the video description if you are interested. And I think that the Raiders would definitely be a good fit for him, obviously, because they just really just need a corner, and they might want a guy who can get some picks right there and cover those, maybe not so much to cover underneath guy, but I think they are desperate. And he was a former Pro Bowler, and he's only 27 years old, so it looks like he could supply something. And when I look at this, I think the Raiders, obviously, their cornerback is definitely one of the weakest spots on the roster. And there was one team I thought he would really, really work out well, and I thought that if he ever, let's just say if he gets cut at some point next offseason, I think the Cardinals could pick him up. The only reason why I don't really consider them bringing him right now is because the cap space. And I think Joe Haden's like $11 million, and I think the Cardinals only have $11 million left in cap space, so that's a little bit concerning right there. But overall, I look at Joe Haden. He does provide some value right here. I think some teams are definitely going to be interested in him. I don't know how pricey he's going to be. I think he should be worth a third or fourth round pick. If it's a second or a first, I could only see a desperate team trading for that if they're really into the playoff hunt. Other than that, though, I really just don't see it. But overall, I think Joe Haden is definitely one of these guys who is on the trading block, and he's probably not going to play in Cleveland in 2017.